My name is Guanxi. I'm a China business coach, trainer, and advisor, but more importantly, I'm an ABC. That's American-born Chinese. What's important is how you look back at these moments in history and see how they shaped who you are, because if you can do that, then it kind of helps you take your current moments in history and project forward. At the intersection between America and China, I'm concerned about the lack of cultural awareness on both sides. So I started having conversations with my unborn son. I want to try to explain our world in context in order for him to make better sense of his world. And I want him to develop a healthier attitude, mindset, and approach towards anyone from a different culture. China used to not really have a legal drinking age because drinking was something that really is part of the culture. Welcome to Season 2 of Generational ABC Podcast, another series of conversations between me and my unborn son, one ABC to another. I started drinking like I used to drink in college because that's kind of like the culture. It was a drinking kind of entertainment culture. Hey, little buddy. It's your father again. There could be some noise in the background because there's a lot of people at the pool today. But I wanted to be consistent. Your mother and I are in the middle of moving right now. So our old apartment is a mess and we're packing things up and getting ready to move to our new home. And obviously that's the place where you will be born. Anyway, the theme of what I want to start talking about is kind of turning points in my life. It's a way for me to document this for myself because eventually I'm going to write a book, but also it's a chance for me to share with you certain, I think, pivotal points in my life that kind of helped me become the person that I am, whether I exceeded expectations or I disappointed myself. That's really irrelevant. What's important is how you look back at these moments in history and see how they shaped who you are, because if you can do that, then it kind of helps you take your current moments in history and project forward. So I'm going to fast forward to, or I'm going to rewind until the time period when I was 21. And something happened when I was 21. I was obviously in college. And one of the things that we did back in that time period when we turned 21 is we would go celebrate with our friends. Because back in Atlanta, Georgia, 21 was the legal drinking age. China used to not really have a legal drinking age because drinking was something that really is part of the culture. And I can remember having a colleague in North Carolina who was from China, and he said when he was a baby, his father started dabbing his finger in baijiu and letting him lick it so he could build his tolerance for alcohol at a when he was a baby. Because drinking culture in China is one of the ways in which you build Guanxi relationships. But that's not what I really want to talk about today. So what happened when I was 21 is I went drinking with friends after midterm exams. So if you weren't very studious and you didn't prioritize classwork as much as you should, then a lot of times you end up cramming for exams. That means you don't sleep the night before exams and you do all your studying kind of like right at the last minute. And that's what I did, or that's what we did. But that evening, one of my friends turned 21, so we went out drinking with him all night. And what happened was uh, I woke up in the hospital, but I actually don't remember waking up in the hospital. I woke in the hospital probably about a week after having an accident. And it's only through the police reports and people telling me what happened that I realized that I fell asleep while I was driving because I was intoxicated, and I also had lack of sleep because I had stayed up the night before. And to make this long story short, I ended up having a mild concussion and about, I would say, maybe a month or so of short-term memory loss. But the result was I had to withdraw from my current quarter of school, and even the following semester or quarter, I think we called it back then, I still was not able to take a full kind of class load because I was still recovering. Fortunately, there were no kind of external injuries. It was basically just a concussion. So, um, so from the period of about my 21, because when you get a DUI, it's a huge penalty. There's a financial penalty. You have to do community service, and you have to go to DUI school. So I ended up doing a lot of community service. I ended up wearing a yellow vest, getting up at 6 a.m. on Saturday mornings, taking a bus with other criminals to pick up trash. And I did that for, I think, 5 weekends straight to do 40 hours of community service and DUI school. So after that incident, I realized that it was just too much of a penalty to drink. So I completely stopped drinking. And I essentially stopped drinking until about 1994. And then 1994, I was assigned to work in Toronto, Canada. And so I started drinking casually again, but I never did the kind of the high school drinking and college drinking where you would just drink and compete with each other to see how much you could drink. So I kind of stopped doing that. And then the turning point, so obviously that was a turning point because it delayed my graduation. Everything happens differently if you graduate in a different year because the market is different, the opportunities are different. But this leads to the next turning point, which happened in 1996. And that's when I accepted a position with an American company as the country manager in Taiwan. So this was kind of my first business experience working in Asia. This was in 1996. I'm sorry, this was 1996. First business experience working in Asia. And so I had not really been drinking a lot. And so what were my kind of cultural shocks when I started doing business in Taiwan, and how did I feel about that? And how does that translate into kind of what's going on in the world today? So that's going to be a tough question to answer, but I'm going to give it a shot. So one of the things that I remember about doing business in Taiwan, and this again translates into doing business in mainland China, is that we spent a lot of time at dinner and drinking. So it was 1996 when I became country manager of Taiwan, where I started drinking like I used to drink in college, because that's kind of like the culture. It was a drinking kind of entertainment culture. And almost everything was done at the dinner table. So it was, I would make let's say I would make a 3-week trip to Taiwan. And every single night I was there was dinner, there was drinking, and there was entertainment, and then there was drinking again. So you would go from kind of like place to place. So dinner often would last like 3 hours, and then you would go somewhere else and drink more and in some type of kind of club or entertainment venue. And then it didn't really matter how much you drank. You were still expected to be at work on time the next morning. And then, especially during Chinese New Year's, when they have the year-end parties. So here in America, we do have like a New Year's party, but it's like, it's generally pretty mild. But the Chinese New Year's party, company New Year's party, where everybody gets together. I can remember the company had this. It's called Wei Ya, so it's like the last dinner of the year, and all the people from the company and all their families come to this dinner. And let's say there was 20 tables of people at this company dinner, and you had to drink ganbei, bottoms up, whatever you were drinking, with everyone at your table. And everyone at your table had to drink individually in rounds with everybody at the table. And then periodically you had to go to every other table and drink with everybody at the table. So that was my kind of first introduction into Chinese drinking culture. And that didn't really stop when I started traveling to mainland China in 2004. And even though when I started doing business there later, when I was there as an expat, where I wasn't the guest all the time, I toned down the heavy drinking, but you really couldn't get away from it because it's just something about dinner and drinking in which people really build their relationships. And one of the things that is really important is you want to get to know the person beneath how they behave when everything is formal. And in Asian culture, because it's such a kind of, how do I say? So we'll get into this later, but the Chinese Riesling is very circular, or it's kind of relative. Chinese people don't think in absolute terms. So the only way you really get to understand somebody is through these kind of ceremonies of eating and drinking. And even during dinner, there's a lot of formal ceremonial things about when you should drink, who you should drink with, where you sit, who eats first. There's just a lot of customs. And it's just important, no matter what country or what culture you're dealing with, that you really try to embrace the culture of the other side or the local culture. All right, so got a little bit long, went over 10 minutes. I didn't really want to go over 10 minutes, but again, these are just kind of unscripted, and I'm just talking when things come to my mind. All right, so again, I love these conversations, and for other people who are listening, hope to hear your questions and comments, how we could go deeper in some of the things that I am telling my son. All right, thanks. Listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts,